Welcome to Cain and Table. I'm Will Cain with Kevin Williamson. Kevin, we may have to do this on the hard line like this, but this is a huge injustice. You, my friend, are one who's made for the visual medium.
Are you sure about that? Well, thanks, I suppose, but I think this will probably work just as well.
What are you wearing? Anything interesting today?
Gosh, that's like a personal question. No, boots and jeans.
Boots and jeans. Well, I'll have to find
Yeah.
a snazzy picture. I think I've got one from you on Glenn Beck, so we'll throw
Okay.
that. All right, man. So as part of the new health care bill, the federal government, or the health care law, I should say, the federal government is going to tax tanning salons a 10% tax on sales.
Yeah.
Now I don't have the stats on tanning salons, and I don't know the exact breakdown of their clientele, but I would have to guess that it's disproportionately represented by white people. Again, just a guess, but
Yeah.
if that is the case, is this a discriminatory law? Is this law racist?
I've heard that line of argument about tanning beds before, and I'll believe that the tax laws are targeting white people when they start taxing penny loafers and martini shakers. But I tell you who it actually does really hurt and have a disproportionate impact on is women, not because women use tanning salons more than men, although they do, but two-thirds of all tanning salons are owned by women. It's an industry that is very much woman-dominated, and most of the customers, most of the employees of these salons are women as well, so it is a disproportionate tax on them.
Let's throw down a little specific law. So there was a Supreme Court case called Yickwu v. Hopkins, and it was a
Right.
California case that there was a law on the books in California that said you couldn't operate a laundry in a wooden building without a permit. Now, this disproportionately impacted Chinese workers, and the Supreme Court held that was a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. The law didn't have to be racially discriminatory on its face, but in the application was enough. So whether or not this is disproportionately impacting white people or women, do you think this law is vulnerable?
The law is whatever five guys on the Supreme Court says it is. I have zero faith in their ability or willingness to interpret anything in any sort of consistent or disinterested kind of way. So, it's a coin toss as far as I'm concerned. I mean, who knows what they'll do? I suppose it depends on who ends up on the court when the case is heard, if it's ever heard.
Well, it's more complicated also than what I just explained, and I think your penny loafers joke is actually apropos because the law has to intend discrimination, and I don't think it does. And white people certainly aren't a suspect class. But see if you agree with me on this, Kevin, or if I'm out on a limb. I think what this does, though, is illustrate two things. One, it's another illustration of the unintended consequences of massive social engineering, and this is this is discrimination, the unintended consequence. Again, whether women or not. I think the other thing it does is it shows people who are always looking for racial discrimination motives behind every corner how something like this might happen. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's just about, any law that's enacted has a disproportionate impact some way or another just because, society is made up of groups of people who are not homogenous and that act differently, that have different sorts of interests, different sorts of activities, different sorts of social profiles. It'd be difficult to think of a law that didn't end up at some level having a disproportionate impact on one group of Americans or another.
Okay. I'm going to go shine my penny loafers. I'll see you.
Yes.